Hi, I'm Jules, a speech pathologist of 18 years. The question was, what is the difference between a speech delay and a language delay? So if you're talking to a speech therapist, we use the word speech as in speech sounds, not necessarily talking, but literally the phonemes or the sounds that a child or anyone is using when they talk. So a speech delay would look like someone saying dat for that, tarot for carrot, wabbit for rabbit, birthday for birthday. It's where their speech is a little bit delayed for their age. And the confusing part is there can be typical errors and age delay errors. So basically your child will always have speech sound difficulties if they're young, okay, up until basically they're 6 when all their speech sounds will be there. So it's the speech pathologist's role to determine whether that speech sound error is age related. So yes, they should be saying wabbit for rabbit because they're only 4. Or if they're 5.5 and they're still saying wabbit for rabbit, that would be a speech delay because that typically comes at about 5 years of age. So then we would target that in speech therapy. Same as when we say, they'll say leaf for leaf and Play-Doh for Play-Doh. So if that child is over 4, that would be a speech delay because L typically comes at 4 years of age. If a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old saying Play-Doh for Play-Doh, that's completely age appropriate. So speech sound difficulties are at the top of the speech and language pyramid, and they are, one of the last things that we would work on in a child if they were having communication difficulties. So articulation or speech delay is something that is usually resolved quite quickly. It can take a few months even, depending on how often that child practices or if that's the only thing that they're working on. Language delay is different. Language is broken up mostly into understanding and talking. A child can have a delay with their understanding. So you might say, "Oh, Michael, go get your hat." And he'll hear that you've said his name, but he won't understand the instruction. The other side is the expressive or the talking side. So you might say, "Hey, Michael, how old are you?" And he may understand the question and he'll go to say, "I'm 6 years old," but he might get a bit stuck on his words. So he might say, a shorter sentence. Yeah, so he might say, that was not a good example. So expressive delay is where the child understands what they want to say, but when they go to put it into a sentence, it comes out a bit disjointed. It might be a shorter sentence and they're not able to express themselves as easily. Okay, but they're understanding quite a lot. Okay, and children can also have both. They can have difficulty with understanding and difficulties with talking, okay, or expressing, making sentences, using words. Okay, so when we're looking at speech therapy, language delay usually takes longer to correct or to support. It usually is something that affects more of that child's ability to communicate and their education, because if they're not able to understand everything or pick up new vocabulary concepts, prepositions, etc., it's just going to be naturally harder for them. Okay, so language delay is a lot trickier for the child and can take a lot longer to work on, whereas a speech delay, also known as articulation, so it's just the sounds, that is more straightforward, and we do lots of flashcards, lots of practices with those, whereas the other one, language, can take longer and we can have a lot more goals for that child. And of course, children can have all three: understanding language difficulty, expressive language difficulty, and speech delay. So just depends on how that child's presenting and what comes up in their assessment as to what they would need support with. So keep asking me questions. I'm happy to answer them.